Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's up, automotive world? This is the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping. I will be your host today. Today on the show, I have Matt Fanslow joining me again. He's been on the show a couple times before, and I always have great conversations with Matt. This is no exception. What we're going to be talking about today is ASE testing, and there's a lot that goes into it. I learned a lot from this conversation, some things that I didn't know about ASE testing. Matt's has been and is heavily involved with the process for developing these tests. And if you're not familiar, this is the certification for our field. You know, they've got certification tests for specific areas of the vehicle that range everywhere from hybrid, diesel, school bus, to the everyday passenger car, and the different areas of certification there, but it is the standard for our industry. Now, of course, there's a lot of negative viewpoints out there surrounding ASE tests and what the certification actually means to you as a technician, to the shop, and to the motoring public. But that's a lot about what our discussion is going to cover today is what does this ASE test or certification really mean, and why is it important to us, as technicians and our field. That's what we're going to talk about today. Again, a really good conversation. So I'm excited to get right into it. Let's jump in. Get it recording here.
Just an opinionated jerk.
Oh, how's it going, Matt? How you doing today?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good. So you gave me a recommendation the other day to listen to an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast with Tristan Harris, and it was on social media and technology in our phones, and it kind of links with Social Dilemma on Netflix, which everybody should watch, especially people with kids. But holy crap, that stuff's scary.
We're all being monitored.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everything they did was, nefarious in nature, but it's ended up being very nefarious.
Yeah,
like anything.
You see how the initial goal there is advertising and sales, and the comment that was made somewhere in there. I don't remember if it was in the podcast or the Netflix thing, but if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
You are the product.
Like, oh, damn.
You need to remember that. And we see this in a lot of stuff, right? You see this in prejudice, our tribalism kind of run amok. But that's why we're here. Tribalism partly is why humans are at the top of the food chain and dominating the planet. Same with our reward systems, with endorphins or any kind of a chemical reward in our brains for doing something. Well, okay, there's addiction, obesity, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, that's certain things run amok. Well, now social media and quote unquote, big time, quote unquote, the internet, algorithms written, whether very, very specific or in more of an artificial intelligence type or deep learning type of a situation where it keeps kind of almost rewriting its own code to better accomplish the goal. Those goals are what? Marketing. We're the products. They're trying, Facebook's free. Doesn't cost anything. Well, somebody's paying for it. And how do they get their return on investment? Well, they're buying your attention. So the algorithms are written to get your attention. They work really, really, really good. And it's run amok. And I really like Tristan Harris's idea of the way the money is flowing. If we can kind of change it so the money flows differently and rewards everyone for helping you become better, a better person, more knowledgeable, more what's a better word for like open, um, just
Yeah.
the opposite of forming your own echo chamber, but reward everybody for improving themselves and their lifestyles. So Tristan Harris, not to give away a whole bunch of points of this, talks about teenage girls will be on YouTube watching diet videos, and the algorithms know that to keep your attention is not to keep posting or linking recommended videos of more diet videos. It's videos on anorexia. That's what's going to keep their attention. That's not necessarily going to help them.
Not
That's
at
not going
all.
to necessarily help them be, eat more healthy, or, if their goal is to lose weight healthily and for good reason. Okay, so then logic would say a better recommended video would be something with healthy diet choices or exercise or whatever, determining if you really even need to lose weight, and something to help build people up. They can tell if you're depressed. Okay, the recommended videos are to build you up, but the money doesn't flow that way. So why would
Right.
anybody do it?
Yeah, and the the actual algorithm isn't, nefarious in the next video it's showing you. It is just what you said. How do we keep their attention based on everything they've clicked on and everything they've watched and how long you stayed in a certain post or whatever? What's going to engage them in that similar manner? And it is, yeah, it's just our nature that keeps drawing us towards a lot of negative things and polarizing us.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Just I mean, see what you see in everyday life and the people you know and social media, and then to watch that, and it's like, wow, that's exactly what's happening here. The comment about I mean, the people in that Social Dilemma documentary, saying that they don't let their kids use social media, but then the CEOs and the owners of these companies for Twitter and Facebook and whatever, they don't let their kids use social media. That's such a big, like,
Yep.
holy cow.
Well, and the one dude, I think he was a big shot with Pinterest and a big shot with Twitter, but he himself said he knew what was going on. He knew, maybe not intimately exactly what the algorithm was, but he knew the purpose. And yet he'd go home and he was just as much a slave to it as anybody else. And he knew about it. And he couldn't put the phone down, couldn't put the tablet down. He was drawn, sucked in.
Yep.
That should just scare people a little bit. I'm not saying get away from social media altogether, because, honestly, Facebook, YouTube, they've brought a lot of really, really great things to me. In many of these groups, meeting people or being in groups where learning stuff, learning all these different perspectives, like that's huge. How else would you do that other than regular networking, attending different training? Well, here I can do it, at a break or after work. And that's, how do you put a value on that? It's so important. But we kind of watch some groups start to form their own echo chambers where they get rid of the people that don't necessarily fall in line, and that's scary to me, watching that happen.
That's exactly why I think it's such a difficult challenge to overcome, because there is so much good to it. There is so much potential. And yeah, Facebook groups and the people I've met through it have changed my career in an incredibly positive direction, and stuff that I just wouldn't have known, or people I would have never met, just events that I wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for, some of the groups that I've been in. Um, that's humongous for me. And that's really why I go on social media right now, is for automotive groups. And I kind of ignore the rest of it, but even still, I'm on there and I find myself, I'll get sucked into something or I'll read something and I'm just spending, wasting my time or getting pulled into something. It's so inevitable. So how do you get the good out of it without the bad? It's very, very difficult.
And that would happen years ago anyways with IATN. A lot of guys, I remember specifically IATN chat, would talk about how they had to they only got a few, maybe an hour after work. Their wife would let them spend about an hour on there, and then they'd get off, eat dinner, do whatever, go to bed, then wake up, and then get back on, and you'd be up there, up on chat until the wee hours. And it's careful how we use the word addictive. I mean, and it was, but it was a lot of just that interacting and like-minded people, in that they wanted to strive for being the best and understanding, but they didn't always agree. And there's a lot of very good, heated, but good civil discourse occurring about this, that, and the other. And you had some really, really smart people in there. I mean, good gracious. Oh man, smart people. Holy cow.
Yeah. You're not kidding. Reading some of those posts from, I mean, a couple decades ago, it's incredible to see some of the knowledge that was shared. Now, I'm sure you've seen the updates to ITN, and I don't know where they're going in the future. Is kind of a bummer to see how they've changed that significantly from what it used to be. It almost looks like they're trying to go for a social media style website instead of the traditional IATN setup.
Yeah. I mean, I think they could have just kept the certain looks of IATN that were very IATN-ish. The way the threads worked in the forums with the thread drift, whatever, that had a certain look, and it kind of made sense. It wasn't necessarily easy on the eyes or pretty, but it made sense. You could see a lot of activity, and then make certain things easier to accomplish through the website, because it was very archaic. I'm guessing they had to change it just because of what it was written in. And that's a guess. I'm totally guessing. But not unlike Pico 7, 6 kind of hit the end of its run in that this is what it was written in. This, I don't remember if it's, oh man, I shouldn't even say, because, if it's C++ and it's going to C# or something like that. Don't quote me on those, because I could be way wrong of the actuality of those programs, but this is the environment they're written in, and it's no longer going to be supported. Therefore, they have to change. So they do. And then I'm guessing IATN was under a somewhat similar situation. And again, complete guess. Nobody said nothing to me about this. I'm trying to find a somewhat reasonable reason that they did. The stuff that annoys me, they've been doing for a while, is if you weren't a member anymore, you were just an anonymous contributor or anonymous member or something. I forget, something anonymous that.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of people there that made some great contributions. Okay, gray their name out, but they wrote that. They contributed. Their name needs to be on that. That is that's unforgivable.
Yeah.
That, Sean Chipping made this post 5 years ago, and it's great. It's great. But for whatever reason, you're not a member anymore. Good. I mean, couldn't afford it anymore. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Or you're mad. You're out.
Yeah.
You still made that post. That was still, people are using it, learning from it. Your intellectual property maybe. Yeah. And why? They can't take your name off of that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's so pathetic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're facing the backlash at the moment, so we'll see what happens. And maybe they'll backpedal a little bit and change things
they'll
up.
Lose. Yeah.
You get hit in the wallet and make some different decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a battle they lose.
Wanted to bring you on here today so that we could talk about ASE. Automotive Service Excellence. They obviously do the testing. They're involved with college program accreditation. And just want to talk with you about ASE, some of the benefits, maybe some of the perceived negative views of ASE tests and ASE certification within our field. Where do you want to start with this? It's a big topic, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it.
Yeah, and they have very strong opinions about it. I'm pretty passionate about ASE. I would not say I was always that. Actually, I wouldn't just say it. I will say it. I was not. I don't think I got my first certification until, 2004, 2005 is when I finally took an exam, and I would say I'd been in the trade full time. Let's just say, I don't know, 98, 99. It was kind of when I was really out of school and working, and I would say contributing.
Now, when you went to trade school, was that program accredited by ASE?
Yes, NASTF, yep. At the time, NASTF. I think now it's the ASE
Education Foundation.
Yep.
Yeah, they just switched that a few years ago, but okay. So I was just curious.
Yep, definitely NASTF. And you weren't able to take the exams while you were going to school. You maybe shortly after, if you were in the trade for a couple of years, you needed to have the experience. And it was taught to that, and it was kind of assumed you were going to go do that. And then, of course, my first job, there was no point. Nobody cared. Can you fix the car or not? Can you figure this out or not? You can go get them. I'm not going to pay you to go get them. I'm not going to pay for the exams. And if you get them, I'm not giving you a pay raise. So why would you do it? And I would say I was looking at ASE like, hey, man, I'm watching NASCAR, I'm watching Indy, I'm watching NHRA. Where's the ASE freaking ads? Where's the commercials saying, hey, seek ASE certified technicians? What are you guys doing? And very upset about it. And then a friend of mine, Ryan Koyman, kind of straightened me out. It's kind of like that's not their job. That's your job. Your job is to go out there and teach people to seek ASE certified technicians or Blue Seal shops or whatever. They do their job. And then I got invited to a workshop and kind of got to see some of the inner workings, and my respect, skyrocketed. And I would say, hopefully some lights went on in my head that, I've been dropping the ball. They're a test administrator. And, at the time, right, there was no computer-based testing. There was no CBT. It was handwritten or written exams or Scantron or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So you went to usually it was a college or library, and you took the exam, and then you waited a week or two to get your results. And
oh man, I remember when I first did them, it was like a month or more before you got the test results, and you're just sitting there like, did I pass? I don't know how I did.
How bad did I do?
Right. Now they just shoot them through, and you get the result as soon as you walk out of the place. It's quite the difference.
It is, right? And that still stressed out. How badly did I fail or A4? It's like, or A3, really A3. Manual transmissions.
Yeah, no kidding. That is my toughest one, honestly. That was the last time I recerted. That was the worst score that I got, was on the manual transmission and clutches, because I don't ever take manual transmissions apart to rebuild them. I've never done that since school. No. So
I have no idea how to set up a rear end. Are you kidding me? I think there's a paint marker involved.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's not something I do or care about. And I think the only reason I passed those exams is the electrical questions bail my ass out. That's exactly what.
Yeah, they have those in every single test that I've taken now. There is some electrical question.
Yeah, and that's just the reality. And that's mainly where a lot of the struggles occur. So, I'm 180 degrees different than my coworkers, and my employer, when he goes and takes exams, he struggles with the electrical stuff. My coworkers struggle with the electrical stuff, and I pray for the electrical question so I can get one right. And dread and struggle on some of the more, I guess, mechanical, the gears, whatever it's differentials are on A2, the automatic transmissions. Some of those freak me out with the inner workings of clutches and stuff. Like, I think I kind of have a rough idea of how they work, but wow, I don't care. Is it in the transmission, and does anything electrical have anything to do with it? Yes or no? Yes.
Right.
Okay. Chase the electrical issue. No. New trans. See ya. We're not tearing anything apart. Are you kidding me?
Right. And so that's actually kind of a point that I wanted to bring up. So, you're saying you pass the A3, you get that manual transaxle rear end certification. And if you were just look at it from a test, okay, this guy's an expert in this area, you pass the certification test. And another example that for me is I went, and the first time they rolled out the L3, which is advanced electric and hybrid test. I went and I took it. I was like, well, we'll just see what happened. And it happened to be a lot of electrical questions. And I think that's why I was able to pass it. But I don't work on hybrids and electric vehicles very often, especially at the time that I took it. I had maybe only worked on a handful, and I did a bunch of studying, and I'm good at taking tests, especially if they're multiple choice. I'm just a good test taker. Some people aren't. But when I got it, I kind of felt weird about it because I've got the certification that says advanced level hybrid electric specialist, but I don't really feel like I am. And so that's one side of the test that I've always kind of felt strange about is I want that certification. I want, the patch or whatever it comes with it. And I don't know that I always feel like I am at that level.
I think one thing I would do is change some of the verbiage a little bit.
Okay.
Namely A1 through A9.
Okay.
So engine mechanical, automatic transmissions, manual transmissions, brakes, is it air conditioning, HVAC?
Yep.
Electrical, I'm forgetting one. Engine performance, but I think I skipped one. I think A5. Oh, steering and suspension is A5. A6 is electrical. A7 is HVAC. And then A8 is engine performance, and A9 is light duty diesel. When you pass those exams, they're not handing you the certificate saying, "Oh, you're an expert." It's specifically those you have met the minimum standard as set by industry, not by ASE. ASE doesn't have a bunch of people, they don't have a big meeting once a year, bring in everybody, secretaries and the tested managers and all that, and the president or whatever, the head of, I think it's the president, and sit down and say, hey, what should we make the pass rate this year? They don't do that. Every few years, they bring in representatives of the trade from manufacturers, the dealers, trainers, either from the always specific like trainers, like Raytheon might have a representative there, something of that nature. Independent techs, independent shop owners, managers, they bring in a lot of people and they sit and come up with, I think they call it the cut score. What's the cut score? And there's a debate, and then it's a vote. Like, you have a piece of paper essentially, and you write in what you think it is, and you hand it in. And then maybe they'll give the result. Well, they'll give you the results, and then maybe you'll argue a little bit. And going in, you think like, oh, we got to raise the bar. We got to keep raising the bar. Well, it kind of gets into that discussion with even doctors by raising the bar for doctors to get their credential, their license. Are you really helping? Because do you need the best of the best of the best doctor in family practice to figure out you have an ear infection?
Probably
and
not.
Should this person be denied that license because they're not the best of the best of the best? Because the best of the best of the best usually end up specializing. So now you're kind of doing a disservice. So the arguing about where that cut score goes, I mean, I'm much more sympathetic to it than I ever was, because I was always like, oh, we got to make sure these mean something. When you pass this, you know your crap. No, this is the minimum standard. I'm basically saying that you have this credential. You are at least basically capable, trainable to become, quote unquote good. It's not like you get the patch and all of a sudden like, hey, you know what? I'm one of the best. You probably are, just because you've met this minimum standard. I have a theory that if we ever, maybe it's really a hypothesis, if we're going to be technical, right? I have this idea that if tomorrow we decide January 1st, if you are going to service a vehicle professionally, you must be ASE certified in the area that you're going to be servicing. So if you are going to be, working on transmission services, maintenance, or otherwise, you have to have A2 and or A3. Otherwise, you can't do it. Now, I don't know. The guys dressed in black are coming in and taking you down. I don't know. But it's unlawful now. If we did that, we would break the industry. We would break it, because not as many people pass the exams as we think they do. And most conversations involve people going like, oh yeah, I know all these master techs, they couldn't fix a sandwich. Well, no kidding, you remember those, because why would you remember the guy who did figure it out, who is ASE certified? That's going to be the topic of conversation. Meet up with your buddies like, oh my God, I met this guy. He's ASE certified and he figured it out. That's crazy. That's not how the conversation goes. It's usually like, man, he's got more patches on his arms than a Boy Scout. And he couldn't figure out this broken wire. I found it in 5 minutes. That's how the conversation goes.
That's what you
ASE doesn't mean nothing.
That's what you hear a lot of from a lot of people is, that it is, just a piece of paper. It's just a test. What's the point? That, it doesn't make you a better technician. And right. I've heard that argument quite a bit. Going back to what you were saying though, with a requirement for certification of some sort, I have always found it's interesting, at least here in Minnesota, for instance, when we went to tech school, we would go up to lunch and we'd eat lunch with all the girls that came down from cosmetology, and we were talking with them. They have to get licensed by the state to cut hair. Now, nothing against cutting hair, because I tried doing my own while in the shutdown and it went terribly. I'm happy to pay someone who is skilled there. But the thing is they are required to get licensed by the state in order to do that. You can go, any Joe Schmo off the street can go work on somebody's brakes, tires, airbag systems. I mean, something that literally could kill someone or multiple people. I've always found that was strange that there isn't anything in place. And maybe there is in other states, but at least here in Minnesota, there's not. Yeah,
that was the point of ASE, was to avoid government involvement, because there is the repercussion of driving prices up. People already complain about prices now, and really our prices are going up because our cost of doing business is going up, because I would argue, for the most part, we're still undercompensating the vast majority of technicians out there, for the most part, especially for the skill set required, and especially if they're doing certain tasks within the trade, the profession, that compared to other trades, we're not there yet. I think we're on a really good arc. I think we're on the way. Nice if it would happen before I would retire, which right now I think will coincide with my funeral. But they just, prices are going up because of that technology. The technology and stuff required to service a vehicle is driving prices up. And then if we add a licensing system, which would probably have to reflect, and I don't think Scott Brown has been pushing this fairly hard with Diagnostic Network. He's the president of Diagnostic Network, that we'd have to follow maybe FAA type things with, there's some practical hands-on portion. You have to demonstrate some sort of level of competency to get this license. If you're going to be servicing brakes, here's a disc brake system. I don't know if we'd do drums or anything, but here's a disc brake system. I need you to do this, point to this, whatever that may be. All right, here you go. Not even saying it would be so terribly hard, but you need to demonstrate some level practical knowledge there, hands-on. And it would rule people out. We had a guy, said he worked for us for a couple months, swore that he had a background at a tire store, and we had him doing front brakes on I think a Chevy pickup, where the rotors have a Torx screw holding it on. You have to take it loose to get the rotor off. He destroyed the screw because he was using the wrong type of Torx bit. Instead of the 6-point, he had a 5-point. So he had to go dig to find the 5-point set. And, it's just so ridiculous. Or the size of wrench for the type of, or size of ratchet, really, for the task he's trying to do. It's almost like trying to torque lug nuts with a 1/4-inch ratchet. I'm not blowing things out of proportion. That's what he is doing. So that would filter some people out, right? And not saying he's got no future. He's just got to be retrained somehow.
Yeah.
So there's the repercussion of driving prices up more, and going with the cosmetology and the hairstylists and all that. I think in Minnesota or Wisconsin, maybe both, they were talking about kind of doing away with that.
Oh, really?
Doing away with that licensing, opening it up more so more people could become professionals. And they fought it hard. The cosmetologists fought it hard because, hey, that's what differentiates me from Joe Blow. We don't have that unless the trade, the profession at every level, but especially the higher levels, the shop owners and managers, be it independent or dealer, they embrace ASE and start demanding it. No, you can't work here if you're not going to take the test. You can't work here if you're not going to be certified. You can't work on these brakes if you don't have your, A3 or A4. A4. You can't do it. I can't use you. But we don't do that. And it's going to be even harder to do now because it's so hard to find talent and skilled individuals. And then you're going to be sitting there going I like you, but you can't get this credential. I'm sorry, man. You just can't work here.
Yeah, you're the only person applying to this position, but you don't have your ASE, so I guess we're just not going to have an employee. Yeah, that is how it's going right now. The shops are desperate for just somebody to come in and apply. I know when I first went out in the field, it was around 2005, 2006-ish, out of school. It was something that you could show, and a lot of places would, they either offer you more money or they want to hire you over someone else. Just they saw that, okay, you did have this certification. And I think, if there was a bigger pool to pull from as far as applicants, people going into the field, maybe then it would be more significant. But I've always thought of it as, not necessarily, like I was mentioning, I get these certifications. And here's another one. When I got out of school, I went and I got all my ASEs because I was just fresh out of school. They taught an ASE program, and I got my A through 8. And I think the next summer I got my L1, and I'm just 20 years old, and I have this master certification, and I'm feeling I'm not really a master technician. And I can tell you, I was not even close. I had years and years to go, but I had the certification. I'm like, I don't feel this way, but I'm going to use it to get me into a career, into a job. And it did help. It showed the people that I was applying for, the person that I was applying to work for, that I have a commitment to bettering myself and to at least aspiring to be top of the field, even if because I definitely wasn't. And
and the label, what do you do? What are they supposed to call it? I guess.
Yeah.
I don't, and that's not even to stick up for them. I don't know what else to call it.
Right.
And I was, I'm kind of racking my brain here. Just, you think master, I start thinking maybe martial arts, and do the masters, whatever that would be, just a black belt or a certain level of black belt. Are they're now considered a master? would they ever say they know everything? And I'm guessing the answer is no. They're just very, fluent. And is that, a good analogy for the ASE credential? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking of this on the fly even.
Right. Well, what do they say?
Better
You need
qualify it.
10 years or like 10,000 hours, something like that, to be, a master at something. You can even put that in quotations because there's always more. But I've found that to be somewhat true with a lot of things. I play rec league hockey, and I've been playing for about 10 years now, and I'm not a master at all. I still suck, but I can see such a huge progression from when I first strapped on skates from that first time until now. There is a clear difference, but I've been playing 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years just to get to a point where I'm not falling on my ass all the time and I can actually catch a pass. It's for anything, any skill you're going to learn, to really be efficient and good at that skill. It's going to take time. There's no other way around it. So I think going back to what you were saying, we got to look at these tests a little differently. It's not you are the best because you got this certification, but you've put in the effort, the commitment in order. You want to be the best. You want to make yourself better. I guess that's what it shows me if somebody gets those certifications.
Especially if you do it on your own. And again, it just comes back to like you meet the minimum knowledge level set by industry, and it does say something because 100 people take the exams, 100 people don't pass. In some cases, you'd probably be stunned at how many do versus don't. I think having that credential, as little credence as you may give it, not you specifically, but anybody listening, if you earned that credential, as little credence as you may give it, it actually does mean more than you think. You've done something that I won't say like the vast majority haven't. I have a feeling like if everybody took it, you might actually be more in the minority. But it means more than you think. You've accomplished something. There is something to it. Again, are you now a master? Are you, that advanced level knowledge? No. You meet the minimum standard, and everybody should meet a certain minimum standard, right? Like, how's that one saying go, or adage? What do they call the doctor who graduated averaging a D?
I don't know. I haven't heard that one. Doctor? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
D's get degrees. That's what I hear in college.
Yeah, and I'm not. And that doesn't necessarily even mean they're a good doctor or a bad doctor or anything, right? It's what the grades are, whatever they are, and I suppose we could get into discussing the discriminating factors and stuff like that. But that's the thing of what ASE is, right? They're a test developer and administrator, along now with Prometric, and they do that really, really, really well. Like, so well that your credential is defensible in court, meaning you end up in court for incompetence. Your credential means something. It has some weight. They made sure of that. They've worked with, I think it's ACT, right? I think it's ACT.
I'm not sure.
To make sure of that. That's a very important part of it. And then also they do a very good job of discriminating between a knowledgeable test candidate and a less knowledgeable candidate right at that line that they can stand behind. If you pass, you deserve to pass. If you failed, you deserve to fail. And then they tell you what areas that you need work in. And then you can go study up. And, whatever, if that's an ASE study guide, which ASE does not develop any ASE study guides. They don't. That's all training entities or whoever. No, but they don't develop anything like that. Whatever it takes to go learn more to now pass that. And then already you're better. you're already better because you went out and sought training, whether that was sitting on the internet, reading some books, interacting with other professionals, going I think a lot of trade schools and tech programs. If you graduate from them and you need a refresher, they can go back even at a reduced cost, or pay for a credit to get a refresher course. And some maybe even offer night classes once in a while for those specific purposes. And I mean, that's all good. I don't see any bad from that at all. And yet, we kind of crap on ASE about it, and it's not them. They're doing their job.
Do you know what was because ASE's been around since the 70s, I think. What was the original driving force that created ASE? What was the need that was present in order for them to become an entity?
If I understand correctly, it was the motoring public had no trust in the capability of auto mechanics, that we were screwing everybody, we were taking advantage of everybody, we're crooks.
Which I'm sure there probably was a lot of.
I think so.
Not everybody, but I'm sure it was present.
It's like nowadays, it's not necessarily, I probably got to find a new word, but it's not necessarily nefarious. There's usually no ill intent. I find myself on Quora a lot. People complaining about mechanics, and they're taking advantage of them. How do you know a mechanic's lying? His lips are moving. There's a lot of that people think that way. And I find that that's complete baloney. I just don't think it exists on any level worth concerning ourselves about. I think there's incompetence. And I don't mean incompetence is like buffoonery, like you guys are a bunch of idiots. I don't mean that so much as you don't know really how it works, and you don't have the tools, whether physical tools or knowledge yet through training or whatever experience, to very accurately diagnose or repair it, and stuff goes sideways. We in the independent world, we learn a lot on the fly. We do. Some people would say that's wrong. Others say it's right. I don't have an opinion. It is what it is. It happens. I think that happens far, far, far more. No intentions of letting anybody down. No intentions of taking advantage of anybody. I want to fix your problem. That's why I'm here. And I like to help people, and I help people by giving them a functioning, safe, economical vehicle or whatever. And you fail, and then how are the businesses structured for billing the customer? That's kind of out of the tech's hands a lot of times. Or you're covering yourself. It's like, I screwed up, but I don't want anyone to know about it, so I'm going to cover my tail on this. That happens.
Yep.
Not like, oh, I'm going to take these people to school. Oh, they drive a nice car. They probably got a pretty good savings account. We're going to get a piece of that. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But, okay, so ASE was the industry, the entire industry. Again, all levels getting together saying, all right, we got to keep the government out of here because they'll just mess it up. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
They'll mess it up. And so we'll create this voluntary test, this voluntary credentialing system. And what was it called originally? Like NIASE or something like that?
Yeah, it was something different. I don't remember exactly before my time.
Well, I think the exams were on stone tablets.
Yeah, when I first did my first few rounds of tests, it was all paper and pencil. And I actually went to the college where I'm teaching now. Like you're saying, that's where the testing centers were. But now they.
Let's text message Jim Morton, find out if they're stone tablets, how that happened. But that was the answer. It was to try to keep the government out of it, keep their noses. The good thing is it kept the government out. It probably kept certain costs down, certain hurdles with the government involvement. The bad part is it's a voluntary exam, which if marketed properly by us, the profession, if we market that right, that should mean more than the credentialing that's forced upon you. Like, you cannot practice unless you have this. And we're saying, no, we choose to be credentialed to do this because we care, our egos, something like our pride. We have this pride. That could be a very powerful marketing technique, but, of course we don't. And the bad part is where's the teeth come from? The shop down the street, they're not going to hire an ASE certified techs. They're not going to not force them, but or force a little bit or urge them to go get credentialed. Oh, who's showing up in the black helicopters to shut them down?
Right.
Nobody. Right. With all the other shops in town going to go picket in front of them? What happens? Nothing. And so that's the bad part is there's no teeth. Bob Hype would say there's no teeth. Gotcha. And he's right. Who's there to enforce this credentialing program? Nobody. So it's really got to come from the front counter, everybody buying into it, everybody selling ASE, everybody, putting each other over, and
so what do you guys do at your shop for technicians as far as the ASE test? Because it costs money to go take them and to register. And so, for instance, when I was at Firestone, they'd pay for us to take the test. So that was an incentive, but they'd also give us a bonus on our check for everyone that we passed. And so there again is some pretty big incentive to do it. So at their top level, they decided this is a good thing for us. Let's give these guys a carrot to go for so that they actually go get tested. What do you guys do at your shop?
A combination of things. One is, of course, not only do we pay for the exams, we pay for you to go take them. So if you have to leave work or miss work to go take the exam, you're being compensated to do that. Pass or fail. Hopefully you're not in there purposely trying to fail.
Right.
It doesn't happen, I don't think. And then it's a combination of, bonus, base hourly rate, and vacation time.
Okay.
All, a little bit of reward in multiple areas to go get your credentials. And, I got 2 people, well, okay, 3 technically, but not including me, 2 people signed up. No, I'm right. Stick with it. Knee jerk. 3 people signed up for the ASE app. So they're taking their exams on their phones, or I think you can do it on phone, tablet, or PC now.
Okay, tell me about that, because I saw something on Facebook the other day, but I was completely unaware of this. What is the new app thing?
The focus is less on discrimination of knowledgeable versus less knowledgeable, and more about maintenance, maintaining your knowledge, increasing your knowledge. Shouldn't be maintained, increasing. So it's more about learning.
Okay.
And you get, I think, probably shouldn't even say because I'm not fully educated, but I'm almost positive to use the app you have to have been or currently credentialed. It doesn't matter if you were ASE certified in 1979, let them lapse until 2020. You can now take the app and get your recerts back.
So it's only
or get your certs back through a recert.
So it's only for recertification, not for the initial test.
I'm almost positive. I don't think if you've never been certified, I don't think you can just take the app and earn them. I don't think so. I think you have to be certified once. You have to meet the bar. And I could be really stepping in it with this being wrong, especially with Google right here. I could just freaking find out. But I'm positive, or I'm fairly certain that you have to meet that minimum Saturn first, and then you can do the recert app or the renewal app, I think. And that is more about training and learning. So you're asked, it's quite a few questions throughout the year. You have to get, I'm pretty sure you get 8 right. You get so many questions a month, maybe 2. If you get it wrong, it's not the end of the world. They send you other questions.
Okay.
They send you sister questions. So the idea is, I got asked this question about a fuse. it wouldn't be about a few. So whatever. I got this drivability question. I got for A8 and I got it wrong. And there's an explanation of why that was wrong and why the right selection was correct.
Okay.
And it gives you the opportunity to then do a little more research. Take a training class online, read a book, go to service information, whatever it is, because some of these questions are actually quite specific, like almost year, make, model, engine, this system, this code. And it's not going to be like, hey, it sets a P0440, which of these could be the cause, and you got to go find the TSB. It's not like that, but it's
right.
You might have to have a little bit of system knowledge, and then you can go get a little bit of training. And then when the sister question comes, you get that right. Well, then you get the point. And once you get 8 points, you've earned your credential, recertification credential.
So I just popped this up into Google while we were talking about this. And yeah, it looks like you sign up for this and then they send you one question within a certification per month. And then you can view it whenever you want. And you have to answer it within the allotted time. And then they tell you whether you were correct or not and give you a reasoning behind it. And then, it looks like if you get 8 correct, then you can recert whatever certification that was, whether it was A1 or A2. That's really cool.
Yeah. And what they mean by the allotted time is you open the question and it asks you, like, are you sure? Because when you open the question, the timer starts. And it's usually a significant amount of time, or, couple minutes, 5 minutes, depending on what it is. If it's got a wiring schematic, there's going to be a lot more time.
Okay.
If it's just kind of a straight up question, you got a couple minutes. They're not trying to ward you away from looking it up. If you're fast enough and you have enough time to be able to go to some resource and find the answer, they're not trying to deter you from that, because that's still learning.
Sure.
What does it take to keep you learning more, increasing that knowledge level? That's what it's all about. It's not about, hey, do I meet the minimum standard anymore? No, you've already met that. Now it's, can I keep you moving up? Can I keep you moving up? Because you have this, with the regular exams, you'd have a phenomenon where the first time you barely pass, but you pass. And then you start passing with flying colors. And it's usually like you're just passionate about fixing cars or whatever the systems are. Maybe you weren't shooting for your master. You're going to focus on whatever areas that you're a drivability guy. So you did, A6, A8, and L1. That's what you cared about. That's what you got. And you would destroy them. You'd just, 1 wrong, 2 wrong, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, 20 years later, your scores start dipping. Well, why? Well, at one point you decided you were really good and you didn't need to go to training anymore. And, you're on your way out. Sure, you're getting ready for retirement. Maybe it's more like 30 years. I don't know. But for those that are going to retire. And, and then the scores start dipping. Well, how do we fight that? Okay. The app, I think, addresses that directly. I think it's a really good idea. It probably doesn't get enough good press as it deserves.
Yeah, I'm learning about it as we go here, but I've got some research coming up, so I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
So you were saying earlier that the pass fail rate was decided by a large group of people, people from the field and other individuals. How about the questions themselves? Are they constructed by the same people in the same manner?
Well, okay. Some of the same people may have I would say not most of the time. I would say often enough, people involved in that whatever committee for the cut score. I think they call it a cut score committee. I could be full of crap, but I think that's what they call it. Many times those people also have been involved in workshops where they've developed questions, maintained questions. Questions age, right? There used to be carburetor questions. There are fuel pressure regulator questions, stuff we just don't run into anymore. Some of them can be modified and, kind of freshened up a little bit and kept on the exam. And then some of them just got to go bye-bye. Well, then you got to write something to kind of replace it for that system. So like fuel pressure regulators, part of the fuel system. Okay, I better come up with a maybe GDI type question that addresses the fuel system, right? And fuel delivery. And so they'll be involved. Then the question writing really is, 15, 20, 25 people sitting in a room, horseshoe style or big rectangle or square rectangle, everybody sitting on the outside. And and you start writing questions. And, you look at every ASE exam has a outline, essentially, that breaks down the test. There's going to be this many questions in this area. There's going to be this many questions in this area. So A2 for automatic transmissions, there's going to be this many questions involving electrical. There's going to be this many questions involving, the torque converter or something of that nature, so that you can prepare yourself for the exam. So you grab one of those, or not grab one of those, they give them to you, and you kind of start writing questions. You just think about my experience in the Bay, my experience of a torque converter. What's a torque converter issue I've run into? And it's hard, it's not like there's going to be tons of questions on torque converters or torque lockup, right? Oh, it shutters. Okay, we've had a few of those. Everybody. But you might write that question, and the customer complaint is shutters in second, third, fourth, fifth gear. Which of these could be the cause? And then you're going to have your answer. You already know what the answer is when you write the question, usually, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be worn tranny fluid. That's the answer. So they'll call that the key. That's the answer. Now the hard part. This is the hard part. This is where nobody gets enough credit for this. You have to come up with 3 what they call distractors, 3 absolutely wrong answers, but believable enough, plausible enough to somebody that doesn't know to pull them off of the tranny fluid thing. So that you can absolutely say, no, that will not cause it. Here's why. But because you don't know, that was an attractive choice. Like, oh, maybe, yeah, it could be a bad TCM. Oh, okay, maybe that was a bad example, but
right.
That's where you would sit. And then a lot of times you're asking the group for help. Like, hey, here's the question. Here's the answer. I got 2 pretty good distractors, I think. I need help on this last one. Like, I don't know what could cause that, and then maybe you got to add more to the question where maybe there's a code, a DTC is set. So now you can add ignition misfire. And, okay, well, ignition misfire would cause this, surge or whatever. The shutter would cause the shutter, but this code wasn't set because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So now that becomes a good distractor, and people maybe read through it too fast, or are less knowledgeable. Go shutter misfire. That's the answer. Next, you got it wrong. And so, you got to generate a bunch of these questions, and then those don't even go on the exam right away. They get tested out. You go in for a test, an exam, and there's 40 questions, but you actually take 50. 10 of those are just test questions.
They're just trying them out.
Beta tested questions, that you're trying them out. How effective are these questions at meeting this criteria? How hard does it? How difficult is this question? And does it do a good job of the knowledgeable techs get it right largely? The less knowledgeable test takers don't. And of those distractors, the 3 distractors, are they somewhat reasonably evenly distributed? That it isn't really like, oh, it's a 50-50 question, right? It's almost true false. These are the 2, A and B is where people are struggling. It's, B is the right answer. A lot of people get pulled to A, but C and D, nobody takes them because they're so ridiculous. It can't possibly be. that's a bad question. That won't survive. It's going to go back through and try to get modified. Let's strengthen up those other distractors to pull some people that way too.
So there's a ton of analysis that goes into this. It sounds like you have you been a part of this yourself?
Yeah, I think it's 20 some.
Okay.
20 some exams.
Okay.
And ASE has a psychometrician on staff, which that's their job, is basically testing the effectiveness of tests, the study of tests and the effectiveness of the exam and the question, breaking down the questions. So one time a friend of mine, Harvey Chan, we were in a workshop together, and we cornered the psychometrician. Like, we got him at lunch and we cornered him. And Harvey and I were arguing or discussing, really, why do test scores of the veteran techs drop? And I was, adamant. It's like, oh, they're falling behind. And Harvey's like, no, they still pass. It's because they don't care. And we got the psychometricians. We asked him the question, and he's like, oh, here's what happens. The veteran. So when you first start taking these exams, you want to get every single question right. Your ego, pride, whatever. You want to make sure you get every question right. One question wrong, you're pissed. Like, hey, which one did I get wrong? The question must be broken. It's not true. And as they get older and more savvy, if you will, they now know the statistics. Like, I only need, I'm taking this 40 question exam. I only need to get 32 right, or 30, or whatever the number may be, to pass. Okay, well, it's probably 28. I need to get 28 questions right. So what they do is they take the questions and they kind of put an asterisk next to the ones they know they got right.
Okay.
And the ones that they're a little bit, I don't know, they skip. And then they get to the end and they go and they count the asterisks. And if it adds up to 28, 29, 30, 32, they don't answer the other ones, or they just scribble whatever.
Sure. Take a
shot. They don't care.
Oh,
I passed.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because what do they call an ASE tech that, a certified tech that got, 28 right instead of 38 right?
He's a certified tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Never thought about doing that. What I've always been impressed by, honestly, on the test questions, like when you go to take the test, that aside from the L series test where you have a composite vehicle, but I'm talking A1 through A8 or 9, when you take these tests and you're answering these questions, they are done in a way where it's not vehicle specific, because there's so many ways where you could read a question and you could say, well, if I'm working on a Honda, it's going to be this,
yep.
Or if I'm working on a Chevy, it's going to be that. And I can say I've never really felt that way answering a question on an actual exam. Now, if I'm reading a study guide, that's a lot different. There's some questions in there. I'm like, well, hang on a second. What are we talking about? If you're not giving me a specific vehicle, this could go either way. But they do really do a good job of making that work. So
many heated debates have been had over exactly what you're talking about, trying so hard to write the question to not discriminate you based on you're a Toyota tech taking this ASE exam and you're met with this Ford question.
Sure.
Or maybe the better example was Chrysler. You're a Chrysler tech, and now here's this mass airflow sensor question. We don't have any mass airflows, or very few.
Mm-hmm.
So you work really hard not to do that, or be really tricky with this map speed density question is really kind of a Honda question. And the Chrysler guys will get it wrong because Honda's doing something just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Many battles, many heated arguments that representatives sticking up for their, people, if you will. The Toyota representative is there sticking up for his Toyota people. and the GM guy or gal sticking up for the GM people. And the indie guy is going, oh, you guys don't even know how your stuff works anyways. No, but many, many times. And I would say generally the best ones is where the representatives have a lot of confidence in their people. That, you know what, if we structure this question in a certain way, if we would add this line or add this diagram or, you know, a little bit of something, this one sentence, I think my text can get this right because they're not idiots. They'll know. They've, you know, this whatever car, this engine had this. I think they'll get it right. And if they do get it wrong, they're going to get all the other ones right anyways. Those are the best workshops where it's, you know, not saying everybody's sitting around singing Kumbaya, but generally the big picture is seen by all. And but yeah, there's been many heated debates about system specifics that are different from platform to platform or car line to car line, and then myths. You know, the myths involved in an auto repair, that you get some people in there that they know what's really going on, and somebody's trying to write a question that's basically based in myth. And the heated debates, I mean, this has been taught this way for 20 years. Oh, it's been taught wrong for 20 years. And that ruffles feathers. It really ruffles feathers.
Yeah, it's a pride thing. I think that's something that, you know, if you're not aware of that, and that so much work's being put into this. It's not just a multiple choice test. There's so much work that goes into the details of it. It really does make it a much more important thing to shoot for, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think I can illustrate enough or talk about it enough how difficult it is to sit in there, come up with a question that's fairly generic. The answer is easy. 3 distractors that are believable but wrong. Absolutely wrong. Not Family Feud wrong. Wrong. You know, this isn't, you know, the right answer is, you know, 100 people were asked, 100 techs were asked, you know, top 5 are on the board, or top 4, sorry, multiple choice 4, top 4 are on the board. The number 1 answer was the most popular. No. That is the right answer. It is the only right answer. These other 3 are 100% wrong. And it's defensible. Like,
and that's a
we
way
can have a conversation. I can tell you why it's not right.
And that's a way that you can, because I sometimes have problems with multiple choice tests. When I do my own tests in class at the college, like I'll write the Tech A, Tech B style multiple choice, but I won't do any other multiple choice because I want a written answer. I want to see. Now on a big scale like ASE testing, I get why that's not possible. But if you're going to make a multiple choice test, being able to write a question in the way you're talking about, where there's legitimate distractors that could be the answer, but they have to take other concepts into account, maybe that aren't necessarily listed out in the question, but that involve what's being asked. For instance, like electrical theory, it may not state things out there, but if you have that knowledge, you've been in the field, you've done this enough, you'll say, okay, well, this can't be the answer because of this piece of information that I have about electricity. That's a really tough question to ask correctly and have those answers that could be right, but there's a reason they're wrong. That is not an easy thing to come up with.
It's brutal. It's really brutal. And you know, ASE, they get a lot of phone calls, very, very upset people. This question's broken. No, it's not. You know, I'll call you back. And they talk to their subject matter experts and others. They figure out who wrote the question, talk to them. Talk to other experts in the field, like, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, that's the only possible answer. These are wrong, these are wrong, these are wrong. And then they call you back and they're like, no, the question's fine. I would urge you to seek out some training, which is now, you know, you've just insulted them.
Yeah,
God forbid.
yeah.
You know.
I used to work with a guy who he wanted to know each individual question and why he got it wrong on the test. And it's if someone is not taking them, they give you the sections and what you got out of a section. They don't tell you the individual questions you get correct or incorrect. And he wanted to know every single one that he got wrong so that he could do exactly what you're saying, is call and complain and say, well, no, when I was doing this job on that car, this is different. And I get why they give out the test results the way they do, because man, I wouldn't want to sit there and answer all those questions from, pissed off people that have their pride hurt in one way or another.
Yep.
Well, you got any other main points on this that you wanted to cover?
I mean, I think if anything, it's how can we urge each other, be it anybody listening or our colleagues, our coworkers, our shop owners. I don't know how popular your podcast is with shop owners yet. I think it's kind of one of those that everybody should be listening to, but I don't know if that really happens. That how do we get everybody on the same page that ASE creates the exam, and we expect them to do the job of discriminating between knowledgeable and less knowledgeable test takers. That's what we demand of them. And then from a marketing standpoint, how do we take that responsibility upon ourselves as individuals at the tech level, to the service advisor at the front counter, talking with a client, hey, trying to get an estimate over the phone. How much for a front brake job on blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Let me work on that. What's the VIN number? And, while you're waiting, let me tell you why you should be bringing your car here. We have ASE certified technicians. And just constantly not putting over ASE, because it's not like clients are going to be like, oh, ASE, let me go to the website. Oh, how can I send them money and make things better for ASE? They would only learn more about seeking ASE credentialed professionals, and now when they're at their whatever activities, family, friends, churches, whatnot, and somebody's complaining about their car, where should I take it? Well, hey, look for an ASE patch, look for an ASE seal, here's a website, ASE.com. You can find an ASE Blue Seal shop. How can we get everybody on the same page of this is what we have? What are we going to do? Just sit around and wait for the government or somebody to step in and say, yep, here we go. Now you're required to have this. Or can we all kind of rally around it and say, hey, okay, it's not perfect. Nothing is, but it's not perfect. It's what we have. They do a good job of doing what we need them to do with that minimum standard. And then someday if we want something higher, all right, let's go after them for that. Maybe we got different levels. Maybe we borrow from other trades with like apprenticeships and journeyman level and master level type stuff. That now that's something. But this is what we got right now. Let's rally around that. Quit running everything into the ground, devaluing freaking everything. We devalue tires. We devalue oil changes. We devalue ASE. We devalue diagnostics. Like, jeepers criminy.
Yeah.
What team do you play for?
Just, shooting ourselves in the foot for sure.
Oh, man. Talk about in a race to the bottom and stepping on the gas, like, unwittingly. What? Frustrating. We're going to go into, like, hour number 3 with me ranting about devaluation, demonizing.
I just thought of this. Do they have individual tests for different manufacturers? I thought I remember seeing like a BMW one.
Not all of them. I believe there's something going on with BMW.
Okay.
I don't know so much about everybody else. And then if they do, I don't know that ASE is necessarily involved.
Okay. I don't know if that would bring anything different to the table if you could pick and choose a different manufacturer. I know they probably have their own certifications at a dealer level, but for an independent repair shop to get something like that, if that would be beneficial.
Yeah. And I think it's mostly going through their training. So it's the testing for their training. And then, okay, yeah, you get your whatever world class or whatever they name that. I don't know that that's so much specifically trumps ASE, because, you say you write questions as an instructor. Well, oftentimes instructors have a really, really hard time writing a question that is discriminatory. And I don't mean that like, we think of discrimination a lot of times we go in a really dark place. This is discriminating between or you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And instructors typically have a rough time with that because they're teachers. They want to teach. So now the questions are structured in such a way to keep on teaching. And I have a suspicion with the manufacturer-specific stuff that they develop themselves. They're not discriminatory. They're further training. They're another means of teaching their techs. They're helping them get it right, which isn't good, bad, or otherwise. It's what it is. But I don't think it necessarily trumps ASE. ASE still holds a lot of water and should.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's generic in nature, because they are trying to discriminate between you. Do you know or don't you know? And that means a lot. I know it sounds bad because the kind of a hot button word, I guess, but that's what's going on. And for the betterment of us, I think. And other than that, yeah, I was thinking of this analogy earlier. It's like, I don't know. It could be horrific.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about, like levels.
Uh-huh.
And you had passed your exams fairly quickly out of school, soon after graduation.
Yeah.
And you got the master patch, but you're not really a master. You knew it. Neither here nor there. But have you ever watched Master Chef?
I think I've caught maybe an episode or so.
So it's a cooking competition, right? They take a group of home cooks, and almost like American Idol at first, with cooking rather than singing.
Sure.
And then they get their top, 20, 25, 30, 10, whatever it is. And then you have the 3 judges. And one of them is Gordon Ramsay. Like, I think he's been there every season.
I think I've seen his individual show that he did, the Hell's Kitchen, before, where he just yells at everybody constantly.
Yeah. This one, I think, is a different. I think he agreed to do it, with the agreement that he didn't have to be the bad guy anymore, because I think he was tired of it. He's Kitchen Nightmares, Hell's Kitchen. He's the one always yelling, dressing people down, insults, whatever. So I think he is kind of tired of that. I don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And so they brought in other people to do that. But there's one episode specifically, and I wish I could just rattle off to you the season and the episode number and all that. But there is a season where he is the they had a test, because it's a competition and they got to cook stuff, and so they had a timed test where they had to make something out of these ingredients, and they had 1 hour, and they had a secret competitor that they were bringing in special, and it was Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, okay.
He was competing against them. So there's 60 minutes on the clock, and it's fish and whatever all these ingredients are, and they have to make a restaurant quality, like fine dining restaurant quality dish out of these ingredients in an hour. And Gordon, when the clock starts, goes up with the other judges and starts visiting with them. And they're like, "Hey man, should you be getting going on this? Clock's ticking." He's like, 60 minutes is a long time. So then he goes and he's walking around looking at what everyone else is doing. And then he cooks himself up a glass or a cup of tea. And then he goes off and like he's reading. And they, on the set, they have this almost little library type area or sitting area. And he's over there sipping on his tea, reading a newspaper or a magazine or something. And then with under 30 minutes to go, he walks over to his station, and one of the judges joking like, "Oh, you're going to get started now?" And in 20 some minutes, he banged out whatever the dish. And I'm sure it was, to die for and all that. It looked great. But watching the guy move, like, this guy can go. It's like if you have a manager or a shop owner who, you don't really see him doing much on cars, but then, oh man, we got to come back or something. Or it's getting close to the end of the day and we promised this car by the end of the day. And then, he throws on the overalls and brings the car in, and all of a sudden you're watching him like, man, that guy can go. That's what the difference between that, Ramsey, the master, the way he moved, the thought processes, the way he multitasked, how clean he kept everything, just the way the guy worked. There's the master, and then you have all these other master chefs who are the best of the home cooks. I mean, they're not even in it. But they passed the test to get on the show. It's not unlike an ASE exam. You passed to get into the show, or should be, right? But you're not a master. That comes with time, experience, effort.
Yeah.
And maybe a horrific analogy, but
no, that totally makes sense. I always like the TV or movie references. Yeah, you gotta put in the work to get there, and there's always another level. There's always there's always something more to shoot for, no matter where you get. But having that recognition, that patch, that test, I think it does make a difference. And so, yeah, we as techs and shop owners have to do a better job of presenting that, encouraging others to do it. We try to get our students to do it, but making the public aware of it too. Like we were talking about with, social media and stuff, get the money to flow in the right direction, go to the shops that are ASE certified, and that's going to make it better.
It really does start at the shop owner level or manager, whoever's got control of the marketing and the paycheck or compensation packages. It really does. If you want ASE to start carrying some weight, that's where the real strides come in. Ownership, leadership. As a tech, yeah, it would be great. Put yourself over, put over your colleagues that are also credentialed. That's great, but it's only going to go so far. When there's skin in the game, that now you can see your leadership marketing you, not only just as your skills and whatnot, that very deservedly so, but also that credential, that means something to them. It should mean something to you, Mr. Motoring public or car owner or customer. And then also just throughout the trade, like all your marketing schemes or angles involve ASE and putting over their credential, not so much ASE itself, but the credential and that patch, that almost that reward, I guess, if you will, that you've earned title. I think that's where the big strides would be made, is when leadership takes and really embraces it and goes, oh, you know what? I'm going to get all my other shop owners together and all my buddies, and instead of price fixing, which never happens. It doesn't. It's a bad joke. But we're going to get together and, complain about the trade, but also, hey, we should really start demanding this. I'm going to start demanding it of my guys. You should really start demanding it of your guys. I'm going to pay them to go take them. Or, so-and-so, Sean, he's been certified 15 years ago. He let him lapse. I don't blame him. It's not like there's anything in it for him, but, now I'm going to get him hooked up with this app. And if he gets recertified master, I'm going to give him a boost or, more time off or some sort of reward, like a real reason to do it. Even if he's just sits, ownership, he or she sits down with you and, hey, Sean, what would be a good reward? What would be a good pat on the back? More money, more time off? Like, hey, man, I really like fishing. Or, you know what? I have ice hockey Friday night. It'd be nice to get out of here an hour early, so I could go
Yeah, everybody's
Instead
got a
of
different
racing down to the rink. And
yeah. Do you know Lucas Underwood?
I know who he is. I don't know if I've met him. It's really just in passing.
Okay, so he and another guy, David Roman, they actually host a shop owners podcast, ASOG podcast. I think you should definitely get connected with them, because that podcast is specifically, made for people who own and manage shops. So that would be
you can hook me up.
Place. Yeah, I'll send you the contact info, and that's exactly what you're talking about, is getting in the ears of those people, so they can start promoting it more and integrated it into their shops. I think that'd be a really great thing.
Okay, one more big thank you to Matt for coming on the show once again. That was a great conversation, very educational. I know I learned a few things. Hopefully you did as well. I'm going to include the link to ASE in the website. I mean, it's pretty easy to find, but I will include that in the show notes in case you'd like to go check this out. If you haven't been ASE certified, you haven't taken any of these tests yet, you can go do this. You can start working towards, the master certification or whatever area that you would like to pursue. Hopefully from that conversation, you understand why this is a worthwhile endeavor, why it actually makes sense to go out and do this. And if nothing else, get it for yourself, but encourage others, encourage your other technicians you work with, or, maybe the shop manager or shop owner where you work, to also encourage other people and to advertise it to the public so that they know what to look for, when they're searching out a shop, trying to decide where to get their vehicle repaired. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Let's all get out there and start fixing the world one car at a time.